The next area that we're going to look at in our electromechanical demonstration is the capability that we have to create 3D models from 2D information. In this particular demonstration, we're going to use an AutoCAD file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Open dialog. We're still in our assembly here. Change my files of type to DWG, which I already have, and select this AutoCAD file. Now before I simply open it, I just wanted to quickly show you that we have a translation wizard that has 8 steps in it, allows you to preview the information. Of course, we have the support for black or white background, which we can switch between. I also can view, zoom in on the information. We have layer control, so I can turn information on and off. A lot of capabilities here. As we go through this wizard, you're going to see the different options, whether it's set to inch, what solid edge template we're using, what kind of size of a drawing sheet do we want to create, and then of course we can map information such as lines, colors, font, and hatching. When we're done with that, we simply make sure that all those settings are correct and open up the file inside of Solid Edge Draft Environment. As soon as that comes in, you'll see all of that information in the drawing sheet. Of course, because we have layer control, we want to turn some of this information off, so I'm simply going to identify the dimensions, the borders, and the text and turn those layers off to kind of give us a closer view of what we have here. And then under the Tools tab, under the Command ribbon, I can select the command called Create 3D. So we can take this 2D geometry and simply create a 3D model from it, and we'll show you how that's done. Make sure your template is pointing to the, in this case, the ncpart.par file. Select the front view. Click New View, select the top view, and then one more time select the new view and then the right side view. Once you click the Finish button, notice that Solid Edge will automatically open up a new part file and place that geometry in the correct orientation for it. What we want to do now is go ahead and document some of the radius values that we need to apply to this model. Now, of course, I can always go back to the draft file, but we just wanted to use some PMI here just to quickly get it in our 3D model. So what I'm going to do is just use the Smart Dimension, where we can dimension lines, arcs, and circles, and quickly place some values on our model. So we have an outside radius of 1/4 inch. We have an inside radius of 0.188, and then another important one is this radius on this outside. It's not a square outside. It's kind of has this crown value of 15 radius. And then while I'm in that same view, I'm going to pick up the thickness here. And then from a side view, I need to set the plane to the right side view, and I need to come over and identify the inside radius, this outside radius, and of course finally the bottom radius at 59 thousandths. So we have the dimensions that we're looking for in this particular model. Now what I'm going to do is come over to Pathfinder and turn off the right and front reference planes just for the time being, and I'm also going to turn off the PMI. We're going to come back and reference that a little bit later. At this point, let's go ahead and start modeling this in 3D. So we'll go to the Extrude command, and from the Extrude command I'm going to use the Parallel Reference Plane option. Simply select that reference plane, and basically I want to pick up this midpoint here. It takes us into the sketch environment where I can simply include tangent wireframe option, right mouse button click to accept it, and then I can go out. So it's easy to grab that information and accept it right away. Now instead of just extruding it, what I'm going to use is a non-symmetric extent. So what that allows me to do is to go in 2 different directions. What I want to do is I want to come down to the bottom of the part for the first extent, and then for the second extent I want to come up to this top element, and it gives us the right height that we're looking for. Now remember, there's a little bit of a radius on the edge, so what we wanted around the whole edge of the part, so what we want to use is a treatment step where we can apply this crown value. immediately it's going to bring up the crown parameters. Now, because I've already been through the demonstration, I've already set it to radius, which is what we're going to use, but you have radius and takeoff, offset, so different ways to create a crown. In this case, again, 15 is the radius value for the top and bottom, so we'll go ahead and accept it as long as it's in the right direction, which it is. And then we can go ahead and preview and finish the model. Now, as I turn off the reference plane, and then we go to a front view, you can see that our model follows that design as we would expect it to. The next thing that we want to do is start removing some information. So I'm going to go ahead and use the cutout command, select from sketch, and I'm simply going to identify these top sketches and accept them, and then just run them through the model. I'm then going to use the thin wall command, flip the model over, use a value of 0.072, and identify this top face and remove the information from the inside. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is, well, those bosses really aren't supposed to be there. They're just supposed to be cutouts. And the main problem that I have here is that I actually did the thin wall after I did the cutout. But in Solid Edge, you can always take the thin wall command and simply click and hold and move it up above the cutout and reorder those features so that they work out as we would expect them to. The next thing that we want to do is go ahead and place internal bosses. In order to do that, under the thin wall command, you'll find the mounting boss command. It puts us in parallel reference plane, so I'll pick the bottom face and come up about 0.250. And make sure you're on the upper side of that face. It automatically puts us in the placement of the mounting boss. In this case, it's the right size. But just to show you those values, you can see that my boss diameter is set, the hole diameter and depth, and the draft angle. You can see that we can create fairly sophisticated mounting bosses. But I've set this up and set it as my default so that because I place it so often, I like to use it as my default. So I'm going to pick up these two holes that are there. And when we come out, it just asks us for a direction, and we create it very, very quickly. We now need to create the final cutout, and we'll use the From Sketch option again, accept it, and take it through the model. Another specific feature that we want to create is what we refer to as a lip and a groove, which you see a lot in plastic parts. And here what we want to do is grab that inside face. And as soon as we accept it, you'll notice it puts us in this mode and asks us what size. So for the width, we're going to use a 0.062. And for the depth, if you recall from the dimensions we placed, it was a 0.125 deep, 1/8 inch deep. And so we can actually click, and you can see that it very quickly created the lip around that bottom inside face. Okay, we've got this model fairly almost complete. What we need to do now is go back to our Pathfinder and click on the PMI dimensions to kind of refresh our memory here. Now we've got the 15 radius for the crown, and we've got the 125 depth for that inside lip. But what we need to do now is add some rounds to the model. The outside is 125, the inside is 188. We also have a 188 on this top edge. So let's go ahead and start rounding the model. And in this case, we want this to be a 0.250. And then we can go ahead and identify this, and this needs to be a 0.188. We also know that we have an inside that needs to be 1.88. And then, of course, if you recall, we had this particular inside edge here that needs to be 125, as you can see right there. So let's change that to 0.125. Now at that point I think that we have everything we wanted, and so we can go ahead and finish out of adding those particular rounds. Now the only rounds that we actually haven't added yet is the 59 on the bottom edge. Before we do that, we actually want to go ahead and add a cutout right here. This cutout needs to be added first. So we'll go ahead and use the single option, select from sketch, accept it in the, move it away from the model and then through the model, and it creates that cutout. So we know we need to apply this 159. I'm going to go back and just turn off PMI to clarify what we've got. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the sketches also, just so you can kind of see what we have. I'm going to use the round command and go ahead and apply a small radius on this small edges of the model, and go ahead and apply them. And then I can go to this outside edge, and for that we want it to be 0.059 to match up with the dimensions that we had selected earlier. So there's our model. You can see we were fairly easy. It was fairly easy to create that model from the 2D information from the AutoCAD file. One other thing that I wanted to take a look at is under the view. I'm going to go to the color display mode, which brings up Color Manager, and I want to change the part to a different color. Say maybe let's set it to copper. And then what I want to do is go ahead and also I might want to go to the file properties, just to show you that we can add any type of properties. In this case it's a cover. This is I'm just going to call it a console, and company. We can also add project information. So if we want to add a part number, maybe revision 1, and a project name, we can come over here and go ahead and create the preview. So we can fill out that property information that can be extracted for a draft, for the drafting environment for a parts list. And then we'll go ahead and save our file. Of course, it's going to automatically bring up the properties where you can fill out that information. And then in here we're going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll just call it cover. And we're going to save it in the working folder. And then we can close the file.